Let's learn about grouped data. Specifically, I'm going to talk about class intervals and modal class. When we have lots of data, we can group the data into class intervals. Then we can count how many are in each group. As an example, I've got data here about the new tuck shop. The new tuck shop is tracking how many sales they make at recess each day. The raw data are below. Number of sales at recess, 45 sales, recess on Monday, 20 sales, recess on Tuesday, and so on. You might notice there are only 8 days here, so grouping it into data into class intervals you might not need to do, but I'm showing you with a small example here so you can see how it would work when there are a lot more data values, like 100. When there are 100 data values, this strategy is very useful. We're going to organize the data into class intervals. And you're thinking, what is a class interval? A class interval is a range. Interval means a range of numbers. So we can count how many results were between 0 and 9. Here, there is only one result that is between 0 and 9. And then I can do my next interval, 10 to 19. How many results are between 10 and 19? None of them. Then 20 to 29. How many results are between 20 and 29? 2. 30 to 39. 3 results. 40 to 49. 2 results. You can see I've grouped them into intervals that have 10 numbers, that they go up in tens. An interval means a range. Class means a group. So I've put it into groups where each group is a range of numbers. This is what it means to organize the data into class intervals. Remember that frequency means how many match that class, that category, that group. The next concept is about the modal class. The modal class is the most common class interval. When we look at this summary, we lose some information about the original data. I know that there was one result between 0 and 9, but I don't know what it is. So we can't say which result was the most common, but we can say which class was the most common. Which of these, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which of these 5 class intervals, these 5 categories, groups maybe, which of these 5 class intervals is most common? The 30 to 39 sales category is the most common, with 3 results. This means that the tuck shop usually make 30 to 39 sales at recess. It's most likely that the number of sales that they make will fit into this class interval. Let's now talk about frequency histograms. We can draw a frequency histogram to show this information. This information is presented as a table, but sometimes it's easier to see the information as a graph to see the patterns in the data. To draw a frequency histogram, we've got the vertical axis will always be frequency. In this case, the highest frequency that I have is 3, so I can just count 1, 2, 3, 4. Starting at 0, I always start at 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. The number of sales, goes from 0, 10, 20, all the way up to 49. So I'm going to go up in tens. 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. I need to make sure that I've got my axis titles. This one is sales and the other one is frequency. What else? I can start drawing my boxes for my frequency histogram. You will note a few things. I've drawn the numbers between the columns. I don't have a number underneath the column, like an ordinary column graph or bar graph. The numbers are right on the edges of the column. And that's because there is one result that is between 0 and 9. Between 10 and 20, there were 0 results. Between 20 and 30, there were 2 results. So I go up 1, 2. See how this column doesn't represent 20, it doesn't represent 30. It's the number of sales between 20 and 30. And that's why the numbers go between the columns. That's important, otherwise it's not a histogram. And then 3 sales from 30 to 40, and 2 sales from 40 to 50. Also note that a histogram has no gaps. I draw the columns right up against each other because when this range ends is exactly the point when that range begins. Very different to a column graph that you might use for categorical data, which does have gaps. We have another question. How many days of data did the tuckshot collect? And yes, you can go back to the original data. Remember there were, I think, 8. But a histogram, if you want to find out how many results were collected, how many data values were collected, you can add up the heights of the columns. This is 1 plus 0 plus 2 plus 3 plus 2. Add up. 1 plus 2 is 3, plus 3 is 6, plus 2 is 8. So we have 8 days, 8 recesses of data. I also almost forgot that a graph should always have a title as well. So it's got a title at the top and a title for each axis. Last question. What percentage of recesses had less than 30 sales? Well, here is 30 sales. Less than 30 sales are these columns here. So I can count how many times that happened. 1 plus 2 is 3. Out of how many in total? 8. Now I've got it as a fraction, and I can multiply that fraction by 100 and put a percent sign at the end to get my answer, 37.5%. Notice that I've used an equal sign here. It's not approximately equals because I did not have to round it. The answer is exactly 37.5%. Please do get lots of practice. I can't say that enough. It's very easy to watch one of these and think, yeah, that's fine, that's easy. But sometimes when you're actually asked to draw a frequency diagram without all the other hints, you'll see it's a little bit tricky. And make sure you check your answers as well and ask me for help if you need it. Bye everyone.